Just days before the anniversary of the January 6th riot, after 6 months of gathering evidence, the leader of the committee investigating the insurrection says the attack was likely a coordinated effort.
It could be people in the executive branch, could be people in the Department of Defense, some state characters, some nonprofits, and some very wealthy individuals.
And the top Republican on the committee, Congresswoman Liz Cheney, says former President Donald Trump ignored pleas to tell his supporters to retreat.
We have firsthand testimony that his daughter Ivanka went in at least twice to ask him to please stop this violence.
Trump also disregarded texts from his eldest son, Donald Trump Jr., and urgent calls from Republican leader Kevin McCarthy demanding he calm the crowd.
The Republican Party has to make a choice. We can either be loyal to our Constitution or loyal to Donald Trump, but we cannot be both.
Congresswoman Cheney also suggests the committee could even consider recommending criminal penalties for the former president.
He could have told them to stand down. He could have told them to go home, and he failed to do so.
Yes.
Legal experts have warned the panel that criminally referring a former president, especially in a Congress controlled by Democrats, could set a dangerous precedent for the next time Republicans take over.
Get that. A dangerous precedent of actually holding people accountable under the law. Dangerous precedent, everybody. Dangerous. Listen, the House committee that's investigating January 6th is going to start their public hearings very, very soon. They will tell the entire story of the insurrection from start to finish, and it will be things that we don't know yet. Otherwise, there's no point, is there? No. But there are 5 teams of people in the House that are looking at 5 different aspects of this insurrection. Things like money, following the money to see who paid for what. The media and the misinformation that went out online. Who was responsible for coordinating that? Why was that message so tight? Why was that message being repeated by guys like Sean Hannity and guys like Tucker Carlson and guys like Laura Ingraham? Why were they all on the same page? Why were the talking points so completely in sync? Social media in sync with the same message. It was stolen, it was stolen, it was stolen, it was stolen, when it wasn't stolen. What were the preparations like inside our government? Who actually in the Department of Defense was responsible for the National Guard not responding for 3 hours? Who gave the stand down order? Now, there are some smoking gun documents out there, but they're going to start to tell you the whole story. Who was putting pressure on the members of the House of Representatives to vote down the certification of the Electoral College in the first place? And why was Jim Jordan, and why was Gohmert, and why was Gosar, and why was Mo Brooks? Today is the day that we have to take down names and kick some ass. Like, who was doing that? Who was actually telling Congress what the preferred Trumpy position was? You see what I mean? And who organized all these, Stop the Steal rallies? Who organized them, and who paid for them, and where did the permits come from, and how much did the government know? Listen, we're going to find all that out, and you're going to find out that Republican members of Congress, including the Senate — when I say Congress, I don't just mean the House — we're going to suddenly start hearing names of Congress members and senators that we totally spaced out about, but we're also down with the, hey, let's not certify the Electoral College vote on January 6th. Now, I have to tell you that the charges for a lot of the things we already know, like that phone call to Georgia, the one that we have, the one that we heard, these are, listen, if it was just a state crime in Georgia, that's fine too, because there are crimes in Georgia that just Georgia, that just on the Raffensperger call, it's called solicitation to commit election fraud. Georgia Code Section 21264. Penalty, maximum penalty, 10 years in prison. Tampering with voter's certificate, Georgia Code 21256. Maximum penalty, 10 years in prison. Then you've got the federal charges for doing something like that. For not just inciting the insurrection, which is 10 years in prison, not just seditious conspiracy, which is 20 years in prison, But conspiracy to defraud the United States, that is what you heard on that Raffensperger call. And that's 5 years in prison. Obstructing the official proceeding, which is what 147 members of the House did. That's 20 years in prison. And then, like I said, the offenses related to the Georgia phone call, citizens depriving or defunding the citizens of a state of a fair, impartially conducted election, that's a federal offense, 5 years. Conspiracy to deprive the citizens of a state of rights secured by the Constitution, that's a federal crime, 10 years. And we haven't even gotten all the way back to like Mueller's 10 different obstruction of justice charges. But those are also crimes that carry with them 10 years in prison. So this is so far from over that this has to be the year that at least this man and the people around him are charged. And one of those people, is going to be, Roger Stone. And, Roger Stone took the fifth the week before Christmas. He went up there. He was subpoenaed to testify, and he didn't feel like going through the whole, hire a lawyer thing to defend him from obstruction of Congress, from, disavowing, a subpoena. So he said, oh, you know what? I'll go and I'll invoke my fifth. And that's what he did. He went and he invoked his Fifth Amendment right. And then he stood in front of the TV and nobody even covered it.
This morning, in fulfillment of a federal subpoena, I did my civic duty and I responded as required by law. I did invoke my Fifth Amendment rights to every question, not because I have done anything wrong, but because I am fully aware of the House Democrats' long history of fabricating perjury charges on the basis of comments that are innocuous, immaterial, or irrelevant.
Let's make you innocuous, immaterial, and irrelevant. Let's do that. Tim in Idaho.
Yeah, you're saying that there was no fraud in the election. All it was fraud. All it was is that he was never elected by the people.
Yes, he was.
No, he wasn't.
Yes, he was.
All the fraud, there was so many illegals voting.
Show me the evidence.
Were wasted.
61 court cases.
Before the courts right now.
61 court cases, Tim. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up.
Fraud. It was a protest against the fraud.
Wake up.
You're the one that won't wake up.
Hey, no, you wake up. You don't get to beat police officers.
Hey, you know what?
You just don't. Sorry. You don't get to climb up the Capitol. You don't get to show up and beat police officers with flag poles and hockey sticks. You don't get to, wear tactical uniform and break into the House of Representatives. I'm sorry. That's not a protest. That's called violence, and it's called a violent insurrection. You also don't get to defraud the people of the United States by saying that a free and fair election was something that you have to take back. It wasn't taken from you. Nothing was taken from you, especially in Idaho. Your electoral votes went to Donald Trump, so what the F are you complaining about? It worked the way it's supposed to work. Otherwise, Idaho would have turned blue. Oh, my God. Stop it already. You people are insane. You understand that? And that's another portion of the January 6th investigation. And this one doesn't really have to do with criminality as much as it does the successful nature of propaganda. And the House is going to actually look at that too. And they're going to figure out how it is so possible to have a guy like Tim call into anybody's talk show, it didn't have to be mine, and say that the election at this late date, after 61 court cases and zero evidence produced, nothing. There was not any evidence ever produced to any one of the 61 courts. Okay, not the Supreme Court, not the appeals court. No courts saw any evidence at all. In fact, the people who they said they had evidence against, Dominion Voting Systems, is suing them for defamation, suing them, the Sidney Powells of the world, the Rudy Giulianis of the world, for over $1 billion for the damage they did to their reputation by insinuating in propagandistic ways, in total BS ways, that the election was stolen by Dominion, okay? This is all something that everybody needs to understand. Propaganda works. And that is how you get, with no evidence, after more than a year, people still saying that the election was stolen from them in Idaho. I mean, this is unbelievable. It's so amazing. How in the world, with no evidence at all of anything that would have changed the outcome of the election? I think we had 3 people in the villages here in Florida vote in their home states and in Florida for Trump twice, right? But with no evidence at all, the amount of propaganda is convincing people like Tim that something was stolen from him. That's incredible. Don't have time to listen to the live show? Want to hear more on your schedule? Go to randyrhodes.com and buy a stinking podcast.